What's up, online nutrition coach community? All right, we are wrapping up the day. We are going out with a bang today with Liz Germain. Listen, if you've been sleeping on YouTube, you need to wake the F up, okay? Because this could be the key to what's missing in your nutrition building business, in building your nutrition coaching business, right? In building your audience, in building trust with them right away, because that's really the power of video. And generating leads, people who really want to work with you. They bond with you. They know what you offer. They can't wait to say yes. Well, the best person in the world for you to hear from is Liz Germain. Liz helps people organically monetize their YouTube, and she's about to drop some amazing knowledge on you today, including some hot seats with some of our VIP Coach Academy members, so that you can see firsthand what needs to change, what you might be doing wrong, what you might be doing right, and what you need to start doing right now to make it happen. Liz, thank you so much for being here with us.
What an intro. Thank you for having me. I'm excited to help you guys. So let me go ahead and share my screen. And before we jump in, I imagine that as an entrepreneur, nutrition coach, you know exactly the type of ideal client already that you're looking to attract. So that's step one with YouTube, is identifying who you're actually creating videos for. And as a business owner, you've probably gone through avatar research and all of that before. So you're one step ahead than other people jumping onto YouTube. Now, before we dive in, once you know who your actual target viewer is, or who your ideal client is, usually the same thing, you also need to understand with YouTube organic growth that there are 3 traffic sources that we're looking to attract. And ask yourself in the beginning, is it more important for me to have sales for my business, or is it more important for me to have a massively sized channel? Because sales and size of YouTube strategy can drastically differentiate the strategy that would be best for you. So if you're looking for, I know this is the lead generation summit or speaker series, so I'm going to focus primarily on lead generation today, but I'll touch on some of the other, just general channel growth strategies that you should also be aware of. So before we dive in, I've got YouTube pulled up here because I'm going to be talking about traffic sources today. And a lot of people, especially in the very beginning, they'll just send all of their Instagram followers, their email list, their Facebook group communities, et cetera. They post their videos to all these other audiences that they've already built up. And I want you to understand that YouTube, when you're doing that, it's actually seeing that traffic as external or direct or unknown traffic. And those are not the traffic sources that you want to prioritize if you want to grow your channel faster and also attract more of the right types of viewers to the channel. So before we jump in, I've got YouTube pulled up here. And I want to show you the traffic sources that we're going to be talking about today, so you have a general understanding when I mention it, 1,000 times in today's training. So first and foremost, when you go to youtube.com, you will see obviously the homepage. This is what the viewer sees right when they land on youtube.com. So this is considered in your analytics, this will be called browse feature traffic. Okay, so browse feature traffic is 2 different types of homepages on YouTube. The first one is the main homepage. And then the second one is this over here, the subscription feed. If you click on that, this is essentially a homepage for the channels that you're actively subscribed to on the platform. So if you're doing analysis of the performance data on your content, one of the main things that you need to focus on is how are viewers actually finding your videos. So this is what would be considered homepage traffic or browse feature traffic. Now, if we are on let's just pick any random video here. The next traffic source that you want to optimize for is suggestions. So suggested video would be all the way down here on the right sidebar. And you've probably seen this when you're using YouTube on desktop. Obviously, this sidebar doesn't show up if you're on mobile or you're on TV. But for desktop viewers, these over here in the sidebar that are being recommended by YouTube, that if someone clicks on that, and it's your video, they click on over there, that would be considered suggested video traffic. And then suggested video traffic also includes at the very end of videos, you've probably seen YouTube do this before. A creator will usually have an end screen there, and then YouTube will pop this up and say, hey, we think you should watch this next based on your viewing behavior. We think you'll like it. Okay, so that is browse feature and suggested video traffic sources. Now, those are considered YouTube recommendation traffic sources. So, and I'm breaking this all down so that you have a basic understanding of YouTube traffic before we jump into the specific strategies. And then there's one final traffic source that we're looking to optimize for that tends to actually be really good for leads and sales, which is YouTube search. So Google is owned, or YouTube's owned by Google, and Google is obviously the biggest search engine in the world. YouTube is the second largest search engine in the world. So the way that the search feature works would be like, I want to learn what to eat for fat loss, for example. You would type that in the search bar, and then whatever videos are ranking here on this search engine results page, how do you actually get your videos to show up there? That's the big question, especially for lead and sale generation from YouTube specifically. So that's what we're going to primarily focus on today, is for the top problems, challenges, and questions that your customers have. How do you get your videos to show up in the top 3 results here so that you get more exposure and your content is showing up when your ideal customers are typing those things into either Google or YouTube? So any questions on that so far? We clear on traffic sources. There's 3 main ones. One's YouTube search, and then 2 recommendation traffic sources. Now, coming back to the sales versus size question. Sales, if you want to prioritize sales, focus on YouTube SEO strategy. YouTube search, focus on optimizing for that. And then occasionally, you can do recommendation strategy type videos. But if you want size of the channel, you have to focus on getting more YouTube recommendation traffic, which again is homepage and suggested video. So YouTube search traffic on the platform as a whole only accounts for about 7 to 8% of total views on the platform. But the reason that we're going to dive a little bit deeper into this today is, again, because it's really good for leads and sales, because you can create video help content that's essentially providing value for those people and building relationships with your ideal clients when they are struggling with specific topics. And I imagine everyone that's watching this, you probably could easily rattle off 20 to 30 frequently asked questions that you get all the time of things that your clients are struggling with. So that's a great list to start with as far as, what video should I actually create? Start with your list of FAQ questions. What should I eat? How much should I eat? How much protein do I need? All those types of things. And then I'm going to show you how to kind of break that down even further to increase the likelihood that you'll show up in search. So most important, understand who you're making videos for. And then next, we want to figure out how they actually find your videos. So just as a quick summary, YouTube traffic sources, this is what you want to optimize for. If you see in your analytics that you have a ton of direct traffic or external traffic, it's going to be difficult for you to grow your channel because YouTube essentially is not pushing it out in one of those 3 internal traffic sources. So we can touch on that a little bit at the end, but in general, these are the 3 that you want to be optimizing for. Now, with YouTube search, it's the best for leads. So to understand how to get leads from YouTube, how to grow your business, how to make sales from YouTube, you need to understand keywords. So keywords that are targeting problems, challenges, and questions, those are really good for attracting new potential clients, but just know that you will have potentially a size limitation when you do YouTube search strategy, because again, most of the views that are happening on YouTube are happening through YouTube recommendations. So I always say it's best to have both, to kind of split it up where you have, some recommendation strategy videos, but then you also have a whole help library of the specific questions and problems that your ideal clients are struggling with. So to kind of split this up, to understand the different styles of content that you should have on your channel, this is actually a YouTube concept. They have this in their creator academies and stuff like that. So we didn't make this up. I'm just sharing this with you. I was taught this about almost 10 years ago now when I went into the YouTube space in LA. And just to give a little bit of background, I grew my very first ever YouTube channel was in the health and fitness space for women. So we did do a lot of nutrition content, recipe content, workouts, and then educational and lifestyle content as well. And as part of that, I got to go into the YouTube space in Los Angeles. We worked with a YouTube and Google employee for over a year as a partner manager. And they were the ones that kind of broke this down for us, because YouTube had done a study of the fastest growing, highest engaged channels on the platform. And what they were looking for was patterns in what types of content works best for growing quickly on the platform. And this is what they came up with, which they still use today. So there's 3 types of videos that all good channels have. The hub content would be like the meat and potatoes of the channel. So this is where your recommendation videos would really be living. These are the repeatable series. It's if you think about your YouTube channel like a TV show, this is the weekly regular scheduled episode that comes out. And within that, you may test out different formats. maybe one format is interview style, maybe another format is you go out on the street and you do taste tests of things that you cooked in a healthy way versus the traditional, unhealthy food. Maybe you also have, just general like warning signs of this condition, or here's 10 top foods that you should eat if you want this result. Those are repeatable formats that essentially you could plug into, and if it does well, you can just repeat it forever. So that's what would be considered your hub content. And then there's also hero content. So we're not really going to touch too much on hero content today, but this is also really good for deepening the relationship that you have and building loyalty within the community that you're building. So hero videos usually take someone on a hero's journey. They're typically more emotional. Once or twice a year is more than enough to do a hero piece. But this is the why behind your brand. So why does your channel exist? What mission are you on? And how can you highlight, here's the problem, and pour salt in the wound a little bit in the first half of the video. And then the middle of the video, there's some kind of a turning point realization. Whereas the last half of the video is the payoff or the climax or the resolution to the question or challenge that was posed in the beginning. So those are usually a little bit longer. They're much more emotional. They use things like music, to influence people's emotions or elicit certain responses. And those can be really good for really deepening the existing relationship that you have with your current subscribers. And then last but not least is help content. So these are the how-tos, the tutorials, the frequently asked questions, the listicle videos, potentially here, here's 10 nutrition apps you should try out this year. Or here's the best calorie counting tracker. If you do that, right? Not everybody does calorie counting, but here's the best 3 calorie counting gadgets that you need in your life. Or here's, 6 kitchen gadgets that will make cooking 10 times faster for you, things along those lines. So these are the ones that if you're just starting out on YouTube, you want to make sure that you're bulking up your help library, especially if sales are important to you, because search is really, really good for discovery. This is often how people actually find you, especially if you're a newer channel on the platform. So now that you have that basic understanding, let's jump into YouTube from the perspective of a viewer, because this is really important for you to understand as far as where your time and energy should actually be going into. Obviously, YouTube takes a long time. So let's make sure you're actually focusing on the right things and spending that time wisely. So from the viewer's perspective, and you can think about your own experience on YouTube, watching other people's content. You go to YouTube, right? And maybe you're looking for something, but maybe not. Maybe you just see something on the homepage that catches your eye. The first stage for the viewer is, do they actually see your video in one of those 3 traffic sources, right? In the homepage and suggested or in search? Do they actually see this? In your data, this is called an impression. Okay. The second stage is, let's say they do see it on the homepage, for example, do they actually click through to watch it? That's called your click-through rate in your analytics. So obviously, if they don't click on it, it doesn't really matter what you said in the video. So your click-through rate is arguably the most important thing, and where at least 50 to 80% of your energy should be spent on is getting the click. Click-through rate comes down to the topic. Is the topic relevant to the viewer? Okay. But most importantly, it comes down to the title and the thumbnail, because that's all people are seeing in those impression spots, is what the thumbnail looks like and what the title says. So I'm going to give you some tips today for making your thumbnails better, writing better titles and things like that. But that's phase 2 for the viewer. Do they actually choose to watch your video out of the dozens of others that they're being shown? And then once, let's say they do, so they click through, now they're on your video. How long do they stay on the video? This is one of the biggest things that if you're not looking at your audience retention reports, start doing that now for every single video that you put out, because you will learn so much about your audience and also ways to get better for future content. So a lot of times when somebody's on a video, if you look in your analytics reports, and we can maybe poke around in some of the channels that we have access to, so I can show you real life examples of this, but your audience retention report will be in the video analytics. And a lot of times the biggest thing that's holding people back from growing faster on YouTube is the fact that after 1 minute, a lot of people are losing over half of the traffic that did click on the video. So with your audience retention, you want to aim for a minimum baseline with longer form content. Obviously, shorts is different. But with longer form content, minimum baseline 40%. So if we're doing, a 7 to 15 minute video, let's say you have a 10-minute video, you have to be able to get the viewer to watch at least 4 minutes of that for YouTube to say, hey, this video is doing a pretty good job. Let's test it out with some other related audiences and then start pushing you out in recommendations. Okay, so watch time and audience retention are super, super important. And then last but not least, the fourth stage for the viewer. Let's say they watched, 80% of your video and they really liked it. Then what do? Do they click off and leave, or do they go on to watch more content on your channel? So this fourth stage that you have the ability to optimize for is getting people to come back. And one of the best things you can do for that is to create matching formats of content. So you have these repeatable series where, let's say you have a warning signs video for heart disease. If someone watches 80% of that, and then they also have an interest in something else on their channel, let's say you had a related video that was, here's 6 foods that will help create healthy arteries, right? That's directly related to the heart disease one. Then they are very likely to then go on to watch that secondary follow-up video because they first got the warning signs and maybe they're thinking like, oh, I might have that. I better start eating better so that I can avoid any further complications with that. So then they go on to watch another. Here's a bunch of foods that you can eat every day for healthy arteries, right? So we want to be thinking, instead about creating individual videos on specific topics, you want to start thinking, how do I create one video that then leads to the next video, that leads to the next video, that leads to the next video, so that I can send people down these rabbit holes of viewing experiences. And then how do we link all those videos together in playlists, through info cards, through links in the video description, as well as through our end screen. So we're basically creating manual data relationships between videos in order to assist the YouTube's AI in doing the same over time. So now here's the kicker is you don't have control over the impressions you get, but you do have direct control over click-through rate, audience retention, and returning viewers. Are you leading people down rabbit holes of viewing versus just standalone videos that aren't really related to one another? So we're going to talk about primarily these 3 things today. First and foremost, because click-through rate is so important, we're going to start there. Because again, it doesn't matter what you say in your videos if people don't even click on it to watch it, right? And it doesn't even matter what the click-through rate is if you're not getting those impressions. But you can't just call YouTube up and be like, hey, can you put my video on the homepage? However, when you do increase the click-through rate, the audience retention, and returning viewers, you are aligning yourself to what YouTube actually wants from its creators. YouTube obviously makes most of its money through advertising. And so the longer that people are spending on YouTube, the more they're able to sell ad space to their advertisers. So YouTube kind of prioritizes, they put their advertisers first and foremost above everybody. Okay. Second, they put the audiences, the users of YouTube. And then third is the creators. Okay. So you're kind of got to like play with the rules. And the more that you can align yourself to what YouTube actually wants, the better results it will produce for you longer term. So when it comes to the click-through rate, what gets a viewer to click is the topic itself. Is it something they are actually interested in? So this comes down to relevancy. And when YouTube is looking at channels to push out in impressions, all it cares about is relevancy and performance. So the relevancy is like, you have to know who your viewer is to know what they're going to care about. And I don't mean to say just look at demographic data, right? Age, gender, location, income level, education status, all the normal stuff. You also have to look at their psychographic information. What moves them? What do they value? What are their fears? What are their triggers? What's on their mind? Why do they do what they do? Get inside their mind and see if you can really break that down. And then in addition to that, you want to also take a look at online behavior as well as offline behavior. So how do they spend their normal day-to-day life? Do they have 9-to-5 jobs Monday through Friday? So they're probably not going to be on YouTube very much on those times, right? Especially if they have family and kids to take care of after they get home from work. They might pop into YouTube, like later in the evening, or maybe they're on Netflix or whatever. But if you have somebody that has a really busy Monday through Friday work week, that can also influence your publishing times, right? Like if they're not even on YouTube during those times, then why would we be publishing videos then? So you want to take a look at and try to get a picture of the day in the life or a week in the life of your ideal clients from those 4 perspectives: demographic, psychographic, online, and offline behavior, because that can influence a lot of different things, not just the relevancy, but also the publishing times that you go with. But relevancy is one of the most important things. Is it relevant to them? Will they actually care about this? Is this something they're interested in? So moving forward beyond that, video title, the title structure. With your titles, you want to keep them short. Everybody always talks about, here's what you do for the algorithm to have a clickable title. But the reality is, anytime you hear yourself saying, I should do this because the algorithm wants it, change the word algorithm to the word audience, okay? Because the algorithm is built to serve the audience, and your job is to serve the audience. So with your titles, aim to keep them under 60 characters if you can, because it keeps it much more readable and concise. This is a challenge for some people just starting out because they're used to making super wordy, long titles and all of that. But in general, you also want to avoid clickbaity type of wording in your titles. The title and thumbnail have to immediately match and immediately deliver inside the video on the promise that you're making with it. So they need to actually be relevant, right? Because it's great if you get, let's say you get a 25% click-through rate, but it was a clickbaity title. Then the third phase, when the viewer gets on the video, they see that, they're going to leave, right? So that affects your audience retention and YouTube won't push it out. Plus, it's actually against YouTube terms to use clickbait titles. So just be careful there. But in general, avoid clickbait. Never, ever, ever bait and switch your viewers. The titles must accurately represent what the video is actually about. Beyond that, always use a 4th grade reading level. So like, no need to, I know this is kind of hard for people that have strong science backgrounds and nutrition backgrounds and things like that. Because it's like, I want to put all the information in there. Just don't. Keep it super, super simple. 4th grade reading level, 60 characters or less. And you can use tools like there's character counters and stuff like that on, just Google it. You'll find a bunch of different character counters to kind of keep yourself within that range. And then also, if it is more of a help style video, you want to do your best to emphasize a specific desired outcome or result. So if they're going to experience a specific emotion or they're trying to avoid a specific emotion, try to build that in within your 60 characters. And then with titles and thumbnails too, a lot of the reason that people click on content beyond relevancy and what they're seeing in your title and thumbnail is their emotions. Okay, so big emotions like shock, fear, curiosity, timeliness. If you have been following the bank collapses that have been happening, if you were in the tech space, someone puts out a video on that and you're curious about what's going on there, the likelihood you're going to click on that is way, way higher, right? So shock, fear, curiosity, timeliness, using numbered lists helps the brain wrap its mind around, oh, this is like only 7 foods. Well, now I have curiosity with that. Like, what are the 7 foods? But it's also a bite-sized, digestible number of topics that we're going to be going over. So numbered lists can also really help and things like that. Don't include your channel name, your actual name or episode numbers or anything like that. It's a waste of character space. Your title or your channel name is going to be right next to the title and thumbnail that you see. So you don't really need to add any, specific, like here's episode 1 or anything like that. Reserve your 60 characters for clickable topics that are relevant, that are concise, and that are easy to understand you have 13 milliseconds to convince someone to watch your video through your title and your thumbnail. Okay, so that's not a lot of time. 13 milliseconds, it needs to be super clear, super easy to understand, and also super eye-catching. As far as the audience retention, what actually gets a viewer to continue watching your video is again, relevancy and the value that they're getting from the content. Also creating curiosity gaps throughout the video and storytelling. So if you notice that your audience retention is really bad, like people are leaving after the first 30 seconds, well, that's an indicator for you that you need to test out different hook styles. Maybe start incorporating more story arcs inside of your content to see if you can get them to watch a little bit longer. So here's an example of, with audience retention, which one, these are 2 different videos. These are actual real videos on YouTube. Which one, if you were YouTube, and they're comparable in length, right? This one's 17, this one's 11 minutes. Which one, if you were YouTube and you wanted people to stay on YouTube, would you be pushing out in recommendations or ranking higher in search? The one that has 2 minutes in, they've lost 93% of the people, or 2 minutes in, they only lost 39% of their people? Well, obviously, if you want people to stay on YouTube longer, you're going to push videos out that have good retention. Okay, so this cannot be stressed enough. Check your click-through rate on every single video that you put out, see what you can learn, what could you do better next time, and also check your audience retention on every video that you put out as well. Now, this is all advice so far for long form content. We'll touch on shorts today because there's a lot of information out there about shorts. So I do want to make sure you guys are aware of what YouTube actually wants when it comes to shorts. But before we jump into that, with this audience retention for longer form content, if you're struggling to keep viewers watching, it's probably because you're taking too long in your intro to get into the content. People don't like that anymore. It doesn't work anymore. This worked like 10, 15 years ago, but nowadays with the TikTok generation, it's like just hurry up and get into the content or I'm leaving. Right? So get into the content as soon as you possibly can. And if you think about TV episodes or sitcoms, start watching them with an analytical lens because they always follow a 3-act structure. So the first act is your intrigue act. This is where you're increasing, you're immediately delivering on the promise you made in the title and thumbnail, but you're also amping up the stakes of the curiosity factor. So asking interesting questions, using bold statements that you go then to back up. Also, what are some of the other ones? Interesting question, bold statement, shocking facts, like things that are like, oh my God, I can't even believe that's true. I have to now keep watching to learn more. Like it can't be true, right? So any time that you can create these curiosity gaps, that would be considered the intrigue phase of your story arc. Next, you want to set up the premise for the video. So if it's a listicle video, you wouldn't use as much story arc structure, but this is more for like, let's say you did a experiment video and you wanted to roll out experiment series. As nutrition coaches, you might say, I tried the carnivore diet for 30 days. Here's what happened, right? So now we have a format that we can actually build story into it. And those types of videos tend to have much higher audience retention, just straight up. So the story setup for a video like that would be, maybe you're in the kitchen and you're like looking at, you have like a bunch of meat on the table and you're looking at it and you're like, I used to be vegan 5 years ago. I can't believe I'm doing this, right? And so you're like setting it all up, kind of giving them the premise, walking them through, taking them through the journey that you're going through in this little experiment that you're doing. And then at the end, it's like, what actually happened? What was the final result from it? Did they actually lose weight? Did they get stronger? Did they feel better, et cetera? You have to actually go through the journey with the creator to get the payoff. So most of your videos on YouTube should have some kind of a payoff at the end. So just keep that in mind. Now, going even deeper into this, you have your hook, your setup, and your climax. Those are the 3 core acts of your video and the core structure for most storytelling content on YouTube. In between there, you have re-engagement points. So re-engagement points are essentially ways to pattern interrupt them. If they start to drift off, you maybe throw in a meme moment to entertain them a little bit within the structure to bring them back in and bring them deeper into the video. It could also be a cut to a secondary camera angle. It could be a familiar character that pops up into the scene. It could be, text or graphic pop-ups that are coming on screen, but ideally, especially with TikTok and Reel generation and all that, people's attention spans super low and they're going lower. So the more that you can have active things that are visually and audibly engaging in your content, the better. Most people, we typically recommend every 2 to 3 seconds, something is happening on screen, whether it's a pan shot, a zoom shot, a bell sound effect, a whoosh sound effect, a transition screen. There's all kinds of stuff that you can do. Obviously, this gets into more advanced editing strategies, but in general, if you think about the hook of the video, the setup of the video, and the climax, in between there, you also want to have these things that are visually and audibly interrupting them so that they don't get bored, right? Like it doesn't drag on. The more entertaining that your content is, even if it is still educational, the better it will likely be to perform. And then you'll see this over here too. Make sure right after the payoff, you're planting the seed for what they should watch next. So inside of your videos, you should, before you film any new content, you should already know what's the video that I'm going to send them to after this, okay? And if you say that verbally, like, hey, thanks so much for watching this video of the top 5 foods to prevent heart disease. And by the way, if you haven't seen it yet, if you feel like any of these apply to you, I also put together the best foods you should eat for healthy arteries, right? Go watch that video next. And then that will lead right into your end screen, which can then feature that video right then and there. So right as soon as they get the payoff, then you want to give them the target video reference link. And again, the reason for doing this is because we want them to watch more content on the channel. So the more that you can optimize for these things, especially for returning viewers, it's great if you have a video totally viral, but not if it's bringing in the wrong people. And also not if those people that came in to that one video don't go on to watch more content on the channel. So far that is titles and audience retention. I want to touch on one more thing here with thumbnails. And I'm going to kind of blast through this just to make sure that you guys have a general understanding. We have a cereal. I always teach this with cereal boxes because it's like when you're in the, not that any nutrition coach would ever be eating in the cereal aisle at a grocery store, but when you're in any grocery store aisle and you're looking for packaged products, think of your title and your thumbnail as the packaging. Okay. So it's just like this. When someone's on YouTube, they're looking at all these other really interesting, really exciting, like, oh, that one looks good. That one looks good. That one looks good. How do you make your packaging stand out the most? So we'll touch quickly on thumbnail guidelines. If you want to screenshot this, please do. But we want to use minimal text. So if you do use text, that's great, but try to keep it as minimal as possible. Use big, bold, readable fonts. Don't use small text. Don't use logos. That's basically a waste of thumbnail space because they're going to be crunched down so super tiny that you won't be able to see them. Also use relevant imagery to tell the story of what the video is about. So with your thumbnails, a really good thumbnail is basically just a simplified version of the title. You want to use bright eye-catching colors. Always use high resolution. And I should actually add this in here. Use this dimension, 1920 by 1080, because that will make your images higher res than the standard 1280 by 720 that most people use. So use 1920 by 1080. You'll get super high res images and your thumbnails will look super crisp. Also, if you can show big emotions, like again, shock, fear, and curiosity tend to work really well. There's a reason that you see the standard cliche YouTube face all over the place, is because it usually gets more clicks. So keep that in mind. And then you can also use things like red arrows, circles around certain parts of it, check marks, emojis, etc., or outlining certain parts of your thumbnail to increase the amount of curiosity that there is. So I'm going to show you a couple examples. But a good thumbnail in general it's simple, it has some kind of conflict or momentum, and it uses color theory. Okay, so we have really bright eye-catching colors. The thumbnails are always going to be on a white or black background, so keep that in mind when you're doing your designs. So thumbnails for sure are by far your biggest opportunity. One of the easiest things that you can get better at as quickly as possible. So when we're talking about simplicity, again, the goal of a thumbnail is to create a simplified version of the title. You could look at any one of these videos and pretty much know just by looking at the image what it's actually about, right? But it also is complementary to the title of the actual video that's at hand. Okay, so you notice these don't even use words at all, but we can kind of tell, okay, he's selling this really nice car. This looks like a piece of gear review. This is obviously a reaction video to crazy makeup tutorials. And again, remember, you have 13 milliseconds to get these messages across. So less is always more, and bright, exciting colors is always the way to go with thumbnails. They also have conflict or momentum. So obviously Mr. Beast, if you want to get better at thumbnails, just go study Mr. Beast thumbnails. They're always so good. You'll literally spend tens of thousands of dollars just to get the thumbnail right. And all of these also have some kind of conflict or momentum. Now, granted, as a nutrition coach or an expert, you may or may not have, you're not going to be throwing a basketball into the Hoover Dam, but you can use some of these fundamental strategies and apply them to your own content. So maybe you have a video that's like a kitchen gadget review or something like that, and the blender is like splashing all over you with a big red X over it, right? Like what do we not get, right? Like what happened in that whole scenario? It creates curiosity when you have some kind of conflict or momentum. So the last thing is color theory. So depending on the emotion that you want the viewer to feel, use colors that will elicit those emotions. So if you want them to feel really isolated, you want to kind of pour salt in the wound if they feel alone or lonely, you may use things like negative space, like a person standing out in the middle of a field all alone, to kind of emphasize that feeling of being all alone. Or maybe they're in, a really grayed out situation where it's like you can tell they're really sad. Or maybe you have a before and after transformation story where on one side, on the left side, they look really tired and drab and, kind of just strung out and obviously not getting great nutrition results. And then on the after side, they have really vibrant, happy, like energetic, super bright colors. So use color theory and just know that color blocked images pop. Less is more in this regard. Okay, so this is an example of a thumbnail that was sent to us and it was just so bad. No one would click on this. This is like 1990s brochure, right? So it's like, how do we make this better? A thumbnail like this, it's too busy. It feels flat because there's nothing in the background. It feels like it was like a cutout of a magazine. See how it has 5 arrows? That's way too many things to emphasize. It makes it overwhelming. We don't really know what we're supposed to be looking at. And the name of this video was something about 5 trailer accessories that every man needs or something like that. And as a viewer, it doesn't really draw your eye in, especially because it's going to be next to all kinds of different colorful thumbnails. So the adjustment for this was, hey, go get in the trailer. Like, I need you to actually go out in the street, take a real picture and get inside the trailer. And I want you to point at one of them. And then instead of saying on the thumbnail 5 trailer accessories, that's redundant because it's already in the title. So let's put something that will actually increase the curiosity that they have for this. You need this. And now we have a circle emphasizing one specific thing. Now, automatically in my brain, if I like trailers and I have a trailer and I'm interested in trailer accessories, now I'm going to be like, what is that? What do I need? And I'm going to click to go find out, right? So this is a way more interesting way to structure a thumbnail like that. Here's another example. So this was like an initial draft. It's too busy. There's too much text. There's not a whole lot of color theory being used. And then anytime you put new or a year, you know, people do this all the time, in 2023 or in 2022. If you do that, just know your video will only be relevant really for a year. Okay. So try to avoid dating your own content so that it has longer shelf life later down the road. So the adjustment for this was this. I want to actually see the apps that we're talking about, or the SaaS ideas we're actually talking about. I want to be really excited about this because these are things that he's giving to people. And instead of saying, here's 7 SaaS opportunities, let's tell them, hey, you can steal these. Right? So do you see how much different this is? So this video, it ended up getting 11.6% click-through rate in the first couple hours. Now, with click-through rate, 7 to 10% is a good range to aim for. Anything over that is phenomenal. Anything under that is indicating that there's something wrong with the title. The thumbnail maybe isn't eye-catching, and also maybe the topic just isn't relevant for your audience, right? So you got to kind of look at these things in stages. If your click-through rate is too low, anywhere under 7 to 10%, then that's an indicator that, okay, you need to go back to the drawing board, test out some new thumbnail styles and things like that. As far as, how are we doing on time? We good? Okay. As far as some other design concepts, a lot of times you'll see top performing creators will use these just general design elements like leading lines, because that creates momentum. It draws the viewer into the video. They want to see, where are we going? Like, it's almost like you're subconsciously pulling them into the video. You can also utilize rule of thirds. So rule of thirds is a photography concept where you basically break your shot up into horizontal and vertical thirds. And then your subject lines are usually, they'll put like the eye of the subject right on that one of these third lines. Okay. So just this helps you to keep your design elements more balanced and more visually appealing, so that what we're trying to do is draw people's eyes again. So don't forget rule of thirds. This is an example. If I want to make the viewer feel like this is a really uncomfortable experience, using grayed out or monotone color schemes, right? Or in this case, with Mr. Beast I think he was in a padded room for, I don't know how many days he lasted in there, but like you could tell he's really suffering there, right? Using negative space can also be helpful. And then the opposite of that is filling the frame. So if you want to specifically emphasize, you know, in this case, it's like, here's this, I can't remember what the exact video was for it, but filling the frame also is another design element that you can use to elicit emotions from people. These are like really intense feelings, right? Like, what's going on there? I feel a little alarmed, right? And I might need to check it out and actually go deeper into the content. And then last but not least, repeating patterns. And by the way, all of these design elements, these are just general design elements to help you understand the concept of thumbnail design. It doesn't necessarily mean you need to do this. It might not be relevant for your audience. I just want to make sure you have the overall concepts here that are available to you. But repeating patterns, this can also be used, like in this case, this is a story video about someone getting lost in the world's largest corn maze. If we use those repeating patterns or those repeating lines, and he's also using negative space and using a red arrow and pointing out, hey, that's me, right? Like, that's a really good thumbnail. You don't need to have text in there. We're telling the story. This is a simplified version of the title itself. So with other types of thumbnails, these are some of the most common ones that experts, coaches, consultants, authors, speakers, etc., will use, is the face thumbnail, right? We've all seen the face thumbnail. This is where you have your face in the actual videos, or, you know, whoever the subject is in the videos, but your face is showing big emotions. You can also do, if you don't want to put your face in it, object thumbnails. So this is really good for like DIY craft channels. If it's related to nutrition, you might also do like kitchen gadget reviews, maybe also like specific recipe videos. You don't necessarily need to be in those. The reason that someone would click on a recipe video is because they want to make the food, right? So like, how do we emphasize the food in the thumbnail on something like that to capture their eye if that's something that looks tasty to them? This is another really common one. And oftentimes in the nutrition world, this would be used for like before and after 2 panels. Or also You've probably seen videos where it's like before and it's like a cartoon graphic. Let's say you're talking about losing weight post-menopause or something like that. And it's a graphic of a side profile of a cartoon. And like on the before one, she has like a little bit bigger belly. And then on the after one, it's like nice and lean, right? So 2 panels are really good for transformation, outcome, or results, showing a before and after, or also doing like interview. So if you have guest experts that come in, or you're doing more podcast style content, this is kind of the standard thumbnail style for podcast content, is 2 panel with the subject in the middle or something interesting in between the guests. Similarly to that, you can also do three or more panel. So breakfast haul, breakfast ideas, recipe hauls, things like that. Here's 3 meals that you can make anytime, or 3 high protein meals that I make when I have no time. Something along those lines. That would be a really good one for a 3 panel thumbnail. And then let's see what else we got. Organized clutter. This is more for storytelling content. Okay. But that's an option too, where it's just like this sea of stuff and then there's a person in the middle of it. Or we can also do collage. This tends to work better for a younger audience, like teenage audience, beauty vloggers, fashion YouTubers, things like that. Or talk show hosts too, will do that. And then last but not least, the candid shots. So this is, if you're more of a creator channel and you really want to forge relationship with your viewers and not necessarily around educational topics, if you're going more for the creator style, eventually over time, when people start to recognize your face, you can just straight up use candid shots. So now let's jump into, before I jump into the actual hot seat stuff, let me see if you guys have any specific questions on any of the stuff that we've covered so far.
We're good.
Okay, cool.
Rocking.
Love it. Okay, so this is one of my favorite tools, by the way, for title and thumbnail, seeing what it will actually look like on YouTube before you post it. So if you go to thumbsup.tv, you can put any thumbnail that you have in here and just drop it in and put your proposed YouTube title here. And it will show you, here's what it's going to look like on the YouTube platform when you actually publish the video. So this is a really great way to kind of preview, okay, this is what it will all look like for my packaging for the content. And it can really help you basically get, like, before you actually publish the video, it can help you see what the viewer is going to see, which sometimes when you just have like a thumbnail design or you have a title written in a Google spreadsheet, like it's not the same as if you're looking at it all packaged together on YouTube. So I highly recommend you use this tool to kind of preview and see, would you click on that video? If you're your own ideal client, would you click on it? Is it simple? Did it catch your eye? And does it also have some kind of conflict or momentum that's drawing you into it, or some kind of a curiosity gap that's being created by a red arrow emphasizing one specific thing to draw your eye there? All of those types of things will super, super help over time. Now, jumping into search, I want to use a couple examples. Obviously, I have the Nutrition First Coaching and Laz channel today, which I'm super excited to go into. I want to walk you guys through the process for essentially studying. Once you know who your viewer is, we need to also understand, what are they already watching on YouTube? Because now that you understand traffic sources and getting people to your content, getting them to click on it, and then hopefully getting them to watch for longer and longer periods, and then leading them into the next videos to watch on your channel. The next step from here is figuring out, well, what are they already spending their time on YouTube watching? So I want to walk you through kind of some of the background research process for this, and we'll touch on keywords and how to make sure a keyword is good to create a search video around. But this part will help you figure out for ideation. Everybody always thinks they have problems with views and subscribers, but really what your actual problem is ideation and understanding your analytics. So if you get really good at coming up with good ideas, and you get really good at reading the data on how those ideas performed, then over time you can stack upon your top performing videos, and essentially YouTube will become an exponential growth curve for you over time. So for each one of these channels, I went and found, based on some of the types of content that you're creating, similar channels that we can take a look at. Excuse me, one second. Water break. Bubble water break. Okay, so how do you find what your viewers are already watching? Well, you can do this in one of 2 ways. Go to YouTube and let's say we want to see best foods for fat loss, for example. Remember, this is search. Okay, so these people are already ranking in search. And you want to look at, from a search perspective, okay, this is 6 months old, but it got a ton of views, 3 million views. However, this channel is also really big, 5.2 million subscribers. Okay. This one's 4 years old, 8 million views, 5.2 million subscribers. Now you'll see this already, I can tell you, is a very competitive keyword, because look at all the channels that are ranking for it. It's like, actually, a lot of this is the same dude. Oh, it's all the same dude. That's funny. I must have been on his channel for some reason, probably in my own research. But you'll see a lot of these channels are huge. 10 million subscribers, almost, almost a million subscribers, 8 million subscribers. Like, there's people that it's going to be very difficult for you to rank for a keyword like this. So instead of going after something like that, you can just put a space bar in and see what else is YouTube. If you just add a space bar, what else is YouTube saying has search volume around it, that we can make this a little bit longer tail of a keyword to reduce the amount of competition that we would be facing if we did do a video around this. So you'll see here, let me zoom in, see if you can see this a little bigger. See these little numbers next to it? That's a plugin called Keywords Everywhere. You can go to keywordseverywhere.com and buy credits. I think it's $10. I'm not going to say how much it is. It's basically, you get, like, if you spend $10, you'll get like 100,000 credits or something like that. So they're super cheap. And each one of these would count as a credit, but this is telling you how many people per month are searching for that on Google and YouTube. Okay. So best foods for fat loss and muscle gain is 880. Now, the ranges that you're looking for here, when you're a smaller or newer channel, would be anywhere from 1 to 10,000 searches a month. So 880 is actually pretty close. And then this bar here is showing you the search trend over time. And that looks like a pretty steady search trend versus like something like this, bank collapse, right? If we look at that, guaranteed that trend is going to be all of a sudden, maybe some people are looking for it here, and there's a couple months no one's looking for it, right? And then all of a sudden, maybe 1 month they do something again, right? So these like trending or news related stories, they don't always have consistent search volume over time. So what we want to be looking for is keywords that have consistent volume over time and that are also ideally between the 1 to 10K searches a month range. And then from there, let's say we want to do this because it's close enough to 1K. You also would need TubeBuddy to come over here. TubeBuddy is another plugin. And over here, this is the TubeBuddy panel. We can click here for weighted. And what this will show us, you want to make sure you're in the unweighted tab. TubeBuddy will give each keyword a ranking for the likelihood that the video is going to perform for you. Okay, so as long as it's not in this red range or a poor rating, you're good to go there. And then the last thing you want to kind of take a look at is how many videos are already on YouTube for this. Now, in this case, there's a lot of videos. It's 11.5 million videos on this exact topic, but that doesn't mean you shouldn't necessarily do it. TubeBuddy is saying, hey, based on what we've seen with this data, it's likely to still do well, even though there's a ton of videos already on this topic. So from that regard, if you did want to rank for that particular keyword, you would need to go into YouTube in an incognito tab, type that exact keyword into YouTube, and then go watch all 3 of the top videos that are ranking for it and study the patterns in them, patterns in how they open the video. What do they talk about in the video? What do their titles look like? What do their thumbnail designs look like, right? Because there's a reason that they're ranking in the top 3. And before you actually shoot your content, when you're coming up with, well, what do I say in the videos? You need to go watch the top 3 videos that are already ranking for it so that you can do a better job. Even if there's 100 million videos on a topic, if you do a better job than the current top 3 videos for that, YouTube will put you above them. And some of those videos, if you do a phenomenal job, can end up paying off for years and years to come. I had a video on my very first fitness channel it doesn't rank number 1 anymore, but for how to do the splits fast. Okay. And this video, this is like 6 years old. It's still in top 5, or what is that? 1, 2, 3, 4 or 5, top 6 now. Okay. This video was number 1 for how to do the splits for like 4 years, and it still pays us to this day. With 8.8 million views over 6 years. Like, the reason that we were able to rank for that particular keyword is because the video itself was better than what already existed on YouTube. So don't skip that step. Just because a video is really competitive or a keyword's really competitive, it doesn't mean you can't rank for it. It just means it might be a little harder because sometimes these bigger channels, they have more experience, maybe they have better camera equipment than you, et cetera, et cetera. But just because it's competitive, it doesn't mean you shouldn't do it. If you think you can do a better job than the top 3 videos that are already out there, I say go for it, because you never know. And if you can rank for something like that, that has super high search volume and is going to be relevant for a really long period of time, especially if it's related to the top problems, challenges, and questions your ideal customers have, then those are major wins that can carry the channel growth over time and also produce an enormous amount of leads and sales from YouTube specifically. Now, let's say there's one other side of this. Okay, so this is kind of what you would go through for YouTube search traffic. Let's go back to our other example of best foods for fat loss and muscle gain. Let's say you didn't like that topic. One of the easiest things you can do to find other longer tail keyword variations is just go down the alphabet, right? And we're using keywords everywhere here to see where are the big ones. So best diet for weight loss and muscle gain, best diet for fat loss and muscle gain. Okay, that's my A topics. What about B? See if anything else comes up. Best foods for belly fat loss. I would definitely do that video. 4,400 people looking for that topic every single month, and it's consistent over time. So I would write that down. Best foods for belly fat loss, right? Then we go to our C topics, right? So you're just going down the alphabet, A, B, C, D, all the way to the end of time to look for relevant ones. Now, in this case, it has 2,400 searches a month, but it's cat food. Unless you're a pet influencer, that's going to be one you just skip right over. Okay, so this is one of the easiest ways to come up with longer tail variations, is just go down the alphabet. Now, this is for search, YouTube SEO, ranking for specific problems, challenges, and questions. But what about recommendation traffic? There's a whole other strategy for studying patterns and top performing content with recommendation traffic, like getting your videos on the homepage or YouTube suggesting them to viewers that you want to see them. For that, you have to actually create a whole separate brand new channel. And this channel is called a dummy account. Okay, so your dummy account is essentially a way for you to spy on what your viewers are being recommended. Okay, so you're going to, in this brand new channel, you're going to become your own viewer, and you don't use this channel for anything else. And you definitely don't use this channel for search at all. Like literally you type into the search bar one time to give YouTube, because it's a brand new channel. So YouTube knows nothing about this person. You would use the search bar one time. Let's say you're in your dummy account. You just set up a brand new account, right? You come in here and you would say, maybe nutrition advice, like a parent category of whatever your viewer's interested in. And then from here, you can use these filter tools. Usually I'll go by view count within the last year. And this is the one that stands out to me most, this one and this one, really. So maybe I end up watching this, right? Dr. Mike looks pretty good. He's got really interesting, by the way, this is called an inline view when you hover over a video. That also counts as views now, just FYI. So this is why the first 30 seconds is even more important to spend like 80% of your time on perfecting. Get a lot of different cuts. You see within the first, he's got multiple cuts in here. He's got text pop up on screen. Is like, there's a lot going on, and it makes it look really interesting. And it increases the likelihood that I want to actually go click through to watch that, right? But let's say, okay, from there, I've given YouTube like one little clue of what I'm interested in. And then I'm going to scroll, in the top 5 or 6 people, and I'm going to see which ones actually catch my eye the most. For me, it's this one. So I'm going to click through to watch this. And that's the only time I'm ever going to use search in my dummy account. From there, let's say this isn't really relevant to the type of content you want to create. That's totally okay. Right now we're just giving YouTube a little bit of clues as to what this viewer's interests actually are. So if you get bored, you would use your dummy account like you use any other account. If you get bored, you can click away, but we're going to be looking at recommendation traffic sources. So maybe down here in the sidebar, there's something that's a little bit more relevant. Or maybe when I go back to the homepage, there is a more relevant, like this one, tips to lose stubborn belly fat faster. It's a really good thumbnail. Caught my eye immediately, stood out amongst all these other ones. All right, so maybe I click on that one. But the point is, you're using your dummy account to study recommendation traffic sources, which again is homepage and suggest a video. You use search once to give YouTube a little bit of intel on what the viewer is interested in. And then from there, every time you log in, you're only clicking on content that's showing up on the homepage and through the up next or suggested videos that YouTube's putting in front of you. And what you want to be doing here, I have a whole list of questions that you can ask yourself as far as isolating the pattern. But the goal of doing this is to understand, because YouTube's not going to push out in recommendations bad content. It's only going to show you the best, especially on a new account. It's this person's first ever day on YouTube. all YouTube wants to do is give them such a positive experience that they not only stay on YouTube for a long time, but they come back tomorrow. Okay, so it's only going to put on a brand new dummy account the best possible content in front of that person on the homepage and in suggestions. So what your job is when you're in your dummy account, when you become your own viewer, is to study the patterns that you see in the content YouTube is putting in front of you. So things like, how are the titles similar? What topics are covered frequently or pushed out frequently? What do the thumbnails look like? How are those similar? In the actual content, like the video itself, how do they open up their videos? Do they use more story structure? Or are they using more talking head style? Are they using a whiteboard potentially? Are they taking you out vlog style where they're actually going out into the street and doing something? All of those things are things to pay attention to, because that's what's working well from a click-through rate perspective, from an audience retention perspective, and also from the perspective of getting people to come back and watch more of their content. So study the patterns that you see in your dummy account for top performing content that YouTube puts in front of you. And what will happen over time is you'll start to see certain people get recommended more and more, especially if you're interacting with their content. In this case, maybe that's not the best video to choose, but you'll start to see certain channels get recommended more and more. So if you start to see, let's say there's 10 to 20 channels that just are constantly recommended, they're constantly pushed out on the homepage, they're constantly pushed out in the YouTube up next. Those are the ones that you want to go look at and do a little bit deeper dive of what they're actually doing to get that kind of result. So let's say in this case, this dude. Now, you would want to switch back to your regular account because you don't want to do this deep dive on a competitor channel when you're in your dummy account. It will basically tilt the algorithm in that person's favor, like heavily, right? The more you interact with content, the more of that person's content YouTube will show you. So you don't want to do this deeper dive analysis in the same dummy account. The dummy account is just for recommendation pattern isolation, and then seeing like who are the top performing creators within this particular space. So switching back to your other account, then you would come in and let's say you have a list of here's the top 10 channels that are just recommended over and over and over, and they get millions and millions and millions of views. Now we're going to look a little deeper and see where can we pull ideas and inspiration from those top performing creators. So in this guy's case, there's 3 spots that you would want to look. If you come over to the person's video tab, we can see their recent uploads. We can see their most popular content. And then if you have vidIQ installed, you can also see their trending content. So I'm going to walk you through each one of these really quick. Recent uploads, basically what we want to be looking for here is what's their typical number of views that they get in a certain amount of time frame. Okay, so it looks like he's anywhere from like 700,000 to like 1 million, maybe 2 million views in the first month. Now, what I'm looking for beyond that is where are the ones that did way better, like this one, 5.2 million views in his recent uploads. What about this actually made that video do better? So these are called breakout videos, videos that far outperform the typical average for the channel. And I have this one here too, which maybe we can look at. He might have some more obvious examples. So like a couple thousand views, 3,000 views, 12,000 views, 10,000 views, 371,000 views. That's a breakout video. Do you get what I'm saying? So the ones that just absolutely knocked it out of the park, those are the ones in their recent uploads that you want to take a look at, because there's something about that video that's making it do way, way, way better than all the other standard videos that this channel puts out. So 6 essential exercises for men in 2023. Do more of these. That would be a topic that I would probably add to my production list, is here's the only exercises that men need to do in 2023, something like that. So you're not doing an exact match of the title, but you're looking for these little Easter eggs that did way better than the channel's typical average and adding those types of topics to your production list. That's the first place that you can look. Next, you can look at their historically most popular content on the channel. So in this case, we're looking for patterns in, are there any repeating formats that we might want to test out? Like in this case, 7 exercises for kids, 7-minute morning workout routine, building muscle after 50, losing visceral fat. Again, another one on building muscle, another one on losing belly fat, right? So we have a couple patterns that are emerging here: losing fat, different types of fat, and then building muscle, and also specific exercises for certain outcomes, right? Already just looking at historically most popular content, we can see, okay, these are the videos that have done the best on this channel over time. But the challenge and limitation with historically most popular content is what worked 4 years ago, 5 years ago, 4 years ago, 2 years, 3 years, etc., may or may not work as well today. So that's where this trending tool comes in. And again, this is for vidIQ. With trending, if you have vidIQ installed, it will show you, here's the videos that are getting the most amount of views right now on the channel. Okay, this is my favorite tool. I look at this every day when I'm doing competitor research. It's seriously the best, because you can see, even though this is 4 years old, it's still his second highest or second fastest viewed video on the entire channel. Okay, then that would be one that I would want to replicate on my own channel and study again. What does the thumbnail look like? What is the title structure? What are the repeating topics, et cetera, et cetera. But the trending tool is so helpful in ideation and coming up with new angles, new approaches, new ways to attract people, because it's basically, here's the breadcrumbs of success of your biggest competitors on the platform. So look at the trending videos that they have, look at the videos that are still getting views, even to this day, even if they're 5 years old, 2 years old, et cetera. Those are the ones that are that should be weighted the heaviest in your content ideation strategy. So for this particular channel, and you're on the call, right? Yes, see, it's right there. Okay, so with your channel, there's a couple things. And I'm going to do a quick little audit for you guys. If I were brand new to your channel, I'm confused as to whether you actually have a channel or not. Like, is this something you're putting effort into, or like long-term, and this is a base, a hub for me to actually get good coaching information or not? Because we're missing a lot of key elements here. You don't have a channel banner. Okay, so you need a channel banner that basically within a couple of seconds tells your audience, this is who we help and this is the result we get them. Or alternatively, you could put in topics or categories that you cover on the channel. So, maybe it's recipes, lifestyle, workouts, and whatever else, or maybe it's we help this person get this result. So you want to have some kind of a channel banner so that we're branding the channel and letting people know if they do end up on your channel, hey, that is, because they're going to be asking themselves, is this channel for me? Should I subscribe? Right? And the easier you make it for the people that it is for, be able to quickly identify that it's for them, the better that your subscriber conversions will be over time too. So I would definitely add a channel banner here with some kind of a help statement or the categories that you cover, things of that nature. And also start using custom thumbnails. So you're a newer channel. All you have to do to be able to use custom thumbnails is to verify the channel, which basically just means you attach your phone number to it. They'll send you a text, you put in the code or whatever they send you, and then you'll be verified as a real person, and that will unlock custom thumbnails for you. So make sure you do that. And then let's see what else we can see here. So can you still eat dessert while losing weight? That's a good one, but the thumbnail should be something like someone like spooning maybe ice cream and questioning, like, or maybe like feeling conflicted, right, between two things, like I want this and I want this, right? Or maybe it's eating your cake or having your cake and eating it too, something along those lines. If the video is about dessert, we need to see dessert in the thumbnail. So make sure you get custom thumbnails unlocked. Same thing here, 5 things I do to stay consistent and healthy, eating and exercise on the weekends. The question is here, how is this relevant to the viewer? The more relevant you can make it to the viewer versus here's just a story I feel like sharing, the higher likelihood it has of attracting the right people, providing value for them, and then of course converting into leads and sales, but most importantly, getting traction on YouTube. The more you can make your content relevant to the viewer, the better. This is not to say you can't post about, your own personal experiments and stuff like that, but usually there's a, kind of more of a story format around that, where you would say, I tried paleo for 20 days. Here's what happened. Here's my results, right? Or something along those lines, versus just here's something I do to stay consistent. And also this topic in general, staying consistent with eating and exercise, that is definitely important for your love group, like the core audience, the core customer base that you have. But it's not necessarily a topic that's going to attract a very big audience to you that doesn't know who you are yet, if that makes sense. So the more you can, again, look at patterns in top performing content to really isolate and figure out, where are these viewers, what are these viewers already watching, and how can I match my content as closely as possible to the patterns that I found in top performing content, either through watching the top 3 videos that are ranking for a certain search keyword, or through my dummy account research, the videos that consistently, or the creators that consistently get pushed out in recommendations, the better that your channel will do. And also individual videos will do over time. So those are my big points that I have for you. And then for both of you guys, I want to show you what happened when I went. It might not do this now because I'm already on your channel, but when I went to look for you, coaching, I could not find you. You're there now, but if I did this in incognito and showed you, you weren't even on the map. So I'm going to show you how to fix that. When you have your name here, this name, I would put this in your channel tags, which is in your settings. And I can show you this real quick in someone's actual account. Let me go into a bigger account. So in your YouTube studio, under settings down here, under channel, this is where you would want to have your name of your brand, right? Your personal name, and then a bunch of different keywords based on what the channel covers. Okay, so make sure you don't sleep on this, because these little optimizations help YouTube categorize. Like, okay, if someone searches for nutrition first coaching, we know to pull this channel up for that query, right? So make sure that your brand name, and then variations, different ways to spell your brand name, your actual personal name, and then core categories or topics that you cover on the channel are in your channel tags to help people with discoverability. Because if someone is searching for you and they can't find you, like YouTube isn't even pulling up the channel, we have an issue there. So this should fix it. Putting the name tags, brand tags, and then category tags inside of your channel keywords here. And then also under upload defaults, one more little quick tip while we're in here. Down here, normally you would want to have, oh, she shouldn't have this in here. Let me just remove these for her. Normally here, you would only want to have your brand tag or your brand name and your personal name. So in this case, she always does travel videos, so that's fine. But these other ones should not actually be in here because whatever you put into these upload default tags is going to get added to every single YouTube video that you put out from now until the future. So you just need to make sure that these are always going to be relevant. Whatever you put here has to be relevant to every single video on your channel. So you wouldn't want to have like recipes, arm workouts, etc., because that's going to get added then as a tag to a future video. But what if it's not a video about those topics? Then it's not relevant. And that can be considered tag stuffing, which YouTube doesn't like. So just be careful with that. But that essentially, if you do that, your channel will be much more discoverable as well. And the last spot you would want to look is under customization, under basic info. Put a detailed description here. That's why I was looking at this page. Where'd you go? This page here, this about section. You want to have your channel name in here, probably also your personal name if people know you as the owner of the company. And then some related keywords like the ones we were just looking at. If you want to know more about best foods for fat loss or muscle gain or performance or whatever, if you're a man over 40 or whoever the audience is, throw all of those keywords in your channel description, because it will help not only YouTube understand what the channel is about, but it will also help people that are looking for you or searching for you actually discover it. So those are my tips that I have for you. Let's move on to Lau. Are we still good on time? You guys good? I can keep going.
Go ahead. We're a little bit over, but definitely go to Lau, and then I have an audience question for you.
Okay, cool. Okay, Lau, I'm so excited about this. I love when people are new to YouTube because you haven't made the huge mistakes yet, right? They're really difficult to clean up later. You guys are both in a scenario where the world's your oyster right now. But similar, and we'll touch on shorts for you because I see most of your content right now is shorts. But similar other recommendations too, like I would clean this up a little bit so that's a little bit more centered or formatted correctly to actually fit and display on all mobile, desktop, TV, and iPad type tablet devices. So I would readjust your banner and maybe throw in a subscribe call to action here. And then I can kind of understand what the channel is about just by looking at this, but same thing, who you help, how you help them, or categories that you cover on the channel would be really, really nice to see because it helps people make decisions on whether that they want to subscribe or not. As far as shorts, so there's two things I want to cover with you. This weight loss journey story. those tend to do really well, especially with female audiences. So definitely, you could do that like once every year or once every couple of years, do an updated, here's my part 2 or whatever it is. And for weight loss journey stories, I want to show you an example of someone that just absolutely knocked it out of the park. This is a friend of mine, actually, Katie Dunlop, and she had this video where, do you see this, how this title is My 45-Pound Weight Loss Story and How I Kept It Off, versus the title we have here, My Weight Loss Journey. Okay. There's a couple things in the differences of the titles of this. She gave a specific number, how she lost 45 pounds. And you don't necessarily have to go out there and say like, oh, I lost, 45 pounds, or how I lost 100 pounds. Obviously, you still need to be authentic and true. But if you can add a specific number, or, here's how I keep the last little 20 pounds off, it just, something clicks in a person's head where they're like, well, I need to lose about 20 to 50 pounds. I'm going to watch that and see what she did, right? Versus this title is a little bit more about you. So it's like, this is only going to be relevant if someone already knows you. Does that make sense? Versus making it written in a way or structured in a way that would naturally create curiosity for someone who wants a similar result, not necessarily to learn about you because they don't know you yet. And so therefore, why would they care? Right. So a couple little minor adjustments like that. And then she also adds in here, and how I kept it off. That's one of the biggest things that the female audience struggles with. They go through this yo-yo diet cycle. And maybe it's not just females, I don't know, but in our first fitness business that we did all female. So I happen to know that audience very intimately, and they can lose weight, but then they struggle to keep it off. So adding that in there, that's a desired result. And so again, it's just making things more relevant to the viewers that are being exposed to this over time. But this is a perfect example of a repeatable series. However, it's not going to be something she can repeat every single week, but she can do this, once a year or once every couple of years. She can come back to this format. And when a video does well like this, 2.7 million views, granted, it did take 4 years to get all those millions of views, but when a video does well like this, because of how YouTube's algorithm is built, when she does an update on this in a year or two from now, right, and she does another, here's my weight loss journey, how I lost this amount of weight and kept it off, right, all those juicy things that her audience struggles with too, because 2.7 million people saw this original video, the likelihood that when she posts the updated video in a couple of years from now, that will be on their homepage or in their suggestions is like through the roof, because they've already engaged with this video. So she has a potential audience of 2.7 million people that even if she just makes a follow-up video to it in over a certain period of time, they're going to see it in their impressions. Does that make sense? Because YouTube's going to show you more of what you've already interacted with. So anyway, kind of wanted to highlight that for you. Now let's touch on shorts real quick, and then we'll jump into audience question and go about our days. But shorts, I think it's really important for you guys to understand this. YouTube just monetized shorts in February, and everyone and their mom is like, do shorts, do shorts, do shorts, which makes sense, especially if you have Instagram audience, you're already doing TikTok videos, you think like, oh, I'll just upload my shorts to YouTube, and that's fine. You totally can. However, with shorts, it's a completely separate algorithm. It's like it's in its own little world. And what YouTube wants from its creators is, because they just monetized shorts in February, they want someone to be able to find a creator through shorts and then click through to watch a long form video. So this is different than every other short form video platform out there, because Instagram experimented with like IGTV for a while, and then they had longer uploads, and same with TikTok, they're starting to do longer uploads. They continuously fall flat compared to YouTube. YouTube is the king of long form content. And so YouTube wants their creators to use their shorts as a way to funnel people back into long form content. Because again, that's where they make most of the revenue. Now, YouTube also, if you do that correctly, you have a short that they'll get the AdSense revenue on. If it leads back to a long form video, now they've just been able to double dip on AdSense revenue. That's what YouTube actually wants from its creators with shorts. But nobody really knows this right now, except for multi-million subscriber channels, YouTube employees, and consultants like me. Right? So it's still kind of like hush hush. So you guys are getting, behind the scenes secret access to this tip. There's something called remixes in shorts or in YouTube, where essentially if you build your short form clips into your long form content, after you post the long form video, several days later, maybe 5 to 10 days later, you can go back and pull out those strategic clips that you built into that long form video and re-upload them as a remix. Okay, so this is different than what most people are doing with shorts right now, is just standalone shorts. And the reason that you would want to do this way, instead of 80% of your short content should ideally be remixed out of long form content. The reason for that, and then you can have 10-20% that's standalone shorts. Usually for like, I have an idea for a video, but it doesn't warrant making a full 10-minute video on it. But the reason for that is because YouTube wants to double dip on the ad revenue. And also watch time is king on YouTube. All they care about, for the most part, everything that's built is built to keep people on YouTube so they can sell ad space. Okay, so if you do remix content, it's really simple. You can look up on YouTube, how do you turn a long video into a short? And there's tons of tutorials for how to do this now, but test that out where you build your short form clips into your long form content. It doesn't necessarily mean, you need to like put all these fancy edits and stuff like that. Maybe you just have, and by the way, YouTube shorts, 15 to 60-second limits. Okay, so you can't go over 60 seconds, but maybe you just have a little bit of animated text that pops up onto the lower third of the screen, and you make sure that your subject stays centered, because it's kind of tricky. There's not a whole lot of extra editing flares and stuff like that because YouTube just started rolling this stuff out. But we do have enough data now to see that when you do it as a remix, there'll be a little button at the bottom. And right now it doesn't really look like a button, but YouTube is going to get better at this over time. They're probably going to make it look like an actual button. They're actively working on this right now. But when you pull it out as a remix, there's a button on the bottom right below the title of it that a viewer can click on from the shorts feed and go directly into your long form video that it came out of. So that's what YouTube ideally wants. And if you guys can get ahead of the curve and start testing that out, your shorts views won't be as useless as they are if they're just standalone shorts, because a lot of times with shorts, you're pulling in typically a younger audience. It's going to be shown like the targeting with short form content, at least on YouTube, can't speak for all the platforms, but the targeting tends to be much more broad. So your content's being shown to all different kinds of audiences, all different age groups, all different genders, all different backgrounds, etc. It's going to be kind of just like popping it up there. And yeah, granted, if someone's interacting, liking, commenting on your short, subscribing from your short, then they're more likely to see your content over time. But right now, shorts is basically like playing Russian roulette. There's not a whole lot of extra stuff you can do besides make really good content and test out doing remixes, because remixes will lead the viewer back into longer session times, longer watch times, and more revenue for you and YouTube over time. And anytime you can align yourself with what YouTube actually wants, you will be rewarded greatly for it. So that's my notes on shorts for you. Audience question, and then maybe some other additional questions.
So good, Liz.
Yeah,
so good.
Yeah.
Okay, so Jeremy asked, he's curious about your thoughts on strategies to like kind of like generate the actual leads through YouTube, like move from viewing to like people viewing to people booking discovery calls, especially since there's no like DM function. Oh,
yes, let's do that. So there's a couple things. I'm going to share this real quick. So with YouTube, just put a call, like a very quick, this should be very super quick, right in the middle of the video somewhere. You can play around and test out where you want to put it, but don't put it right in the beginning of the video. Don't put it right at the end of the video. I would put it somewhere in the middle, like probably somewhere within, the first like 2 minutes, because we don't really want the people that are clicking through, and then that could turn them away if you're already like, hey, go get this thing that I made for you, right? So your hook should always be first. But maybe within the minute or two after that hook, you say, oh, by the way, you have a quick pattern interrupt. You say, by the way, if you like this, I put together this free thing for you. You can get it in the description box below. So that's the basic script. That's Frank Kern style. Like, hey, if you like this thing, you're going to like this other thing, go get it in the description. And then as far as like the actual conversion links, if we go to, come back to, I'm trying to see who I know who has this. Well, let's just go back to Kristen's channel. I like to use her stuff a lot for demos. Inside of YouTube Studio, there's a few places that you can link up conversion links. If you go back to the customization section under basic info, you want to have and by the way, with YouTube conversions, it's best if you can choose one main conversion link. Okay. So like all your YouTube traffic is going to one place. Instead of having like, here's my application, here's my free download, here's, my course link, all that. You can have that in your video descriptions, but in the channel description, I would just have one opt-in. that you're optimizing for. And you would put that right here in the description. You would also want to make sure that in your settings, again, under upload defaults, and maybe this would be helpful to give you guys, we have video description template. This is the template that you would want to use for this section in the channel settings under upload defaults. Whatever you add here will, again, be added to every future video that you do. So here you have your sub confirmation link, a short SEO description of what the channel is about. You have target video links always, in case you forget to add them during manual upload. And then maybe you put one free offer and one product here, right? So you want to put your offer and your product links there. And then your socials, and then one more call to action, subscribe. So this is the general template that we would typically add to a channel, but there's a couple other places that you can make sure your conversion links are also added. They just would need to be added manually during upload. So when you're uploading a new video, let's say this is a new video and I'm just adding it here. So you'll see this, whatever's down here is what was, where is it? Whatever's, well, I actually don't know if that's correct with hers. We're adjusting her descriptions right now. So this one's a little bit weird, but normally whatever you put in that default upload section will be right here. And then above that, you want to have your target video links. So referring them to more related content on the channel. And then, you know, a 1 to 3 line description of what the video is about. If it's a search-based video, you would want to make sure, obviously, your target keywords in the description, a couple relevant variations and things like that. But in addition to that, for lead generation, you can also add links to your end screen. Okay, so normally, you know, you'd want to have one related video here and maybe a playlist or something like that. For most of your videos, they should be routing the traffic to other content on the channel, because YouTube doesn't like, just like any platform, it doesn't like when you send people off YouTube. But if it's an SEO video, for example, like how to lose weight in 28 days or whatever it is, in that case, those videos, the conversion goal is lead generation. So for that, you can actually click right here and add a link. And whatever you put here will become a link box on the actual video. Now, the caveat with this is you have to actually be, I'm pretty sure you have to be a YouTube partner to link to websites, but test it out because they're changing stuff all the time. They may have changed that. So where smaller channels can actually link directly from their content. But end screens are a great spot to put lead magnet links. And then also, if you don't have that yet, you can do cards. So cards are these the little info button that pops up in the top right corner. Normally, if you have a 24-minute video like this, you could have like 2 or 3 different cards in here. And one of the cards could be your lead page or your application page or whatever it is. So with cards, same thing, you would just add a link, and then you can put whatever link here you want, and it will pop up on the video itself. So those are a couple ways you can use YouTube features for conversions. And then the last spot here I would also add is actually on YouTube. Once your video goes live, you can leave a comment on your own, just like this, leave a comment on your own video. And then these little buttons here, you can pin it to the very top of the conversation. So that's a great spot. If you can't link with end screens because you're not monetized yet, this is what I would recommend you do instead, is put a pinned comment there that leads to your application or your course sales page or whatever it is that you want to promote. So those are the main spots that you would want to have it: channel description, cards, end screens, and links in the video description on the video itself, plus pinned comment that is all the way up at the top of the comment section. And then beyond that, the only other thing you can do is that verbal call out, you know, hey, if you like this, you're really going to like this other thing, go get it right here. And that would then route them to the description where all of these additional links are. So hopefully that helps.
That's super helpful, like super, super helpful. Okay, so last question. This is kind of like a multi-part question, but Gabrielle said, if you created a channel in 2020, but didn't continue, can you combine that channel with a new channel with different topics? Or should I just start out new altogether? I had less than 100 followers.
I would just start over new. Mm-hmm. The reason being, I get this question all the time, and it's always a mystery. Every creator is unique in that regard. It's like, we don't really usually know until we take a look at the channel. However, if you only had less than 100 people and it's been almost 3 years now, or 3 years since you last posted, one thing that YouTube will never admit this, but based on the data, they absolutely prioritize new channels. There's something we call the freshness factor. YouTube loves when new stuff comes out, especially if it's really, really, really good. So you have a higher likelihood. And this isn't, if you were at even 50,000 subscribers, but it had been a really long time, like in that case, you could stick with the old channel and just try to revive it. But there is something to be said about the freshness factor of brand new channels, especially if you come out of the gates with banger content that people love. Like your channel will grow exponentially faster. But YouTube will never admit that. So just know that they say it doesn't really matter that much, but they definitely do prioritize newer channels, especially if your older channel has been dead for a really long time. So yeah, that's what I would do with that.
So good. Okay, big question. Where can people find, follow, and stay connected with you? And how can they hire you for help?
Yeah, great question. You can find me on socials everywhere at Liz Does Video. And for business related stuff, vidfluence.com or lizdoesvideo.com. You'll find me both ways. So it's vidfluence.com. That details out all of our programs, services, courses, and the like. And last but not least, if you want to learn more or go deeper, you can visit youtubegrowthhacks.com to get a little starter kit and lots of additional support there.
Awesome. And I'm definitely going to link that youtubegrowthhacks.com here. And coaches, I know a lot of you are watching the replay, so continue to comment and ask your questions and stay connected to Liz. You're getting lots of good love on the feed now. Yes. Awesome. Thank you so much, Brant, Lau. Thank you guys so much too for just being super vulnerable and letting Liz go over your channel and giving you that feedback. Awesome, coaches. Get started. Start making that content. We would love to follow you. Drop your YouTube channels here so we can check you out. All right, guys. Till next time. Bye.
Bye.